Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cannabis Pros and Marketing Masters, hosted by the Beard Bros Network. My name is Nigel Despinasse. I'm your host. And today we've got Kyle Webb of Timeless, the head of the helm in terms of marketing efforts. Kyle, tell everybody hello and give us an introduction.
Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. I appreciate you asking me to be on, Nigel. This should be a fun time. I love to talk about marketing and especially digital. So I'm so proud to be here and I really appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, of course. I kind of, I got connected with you guys probably around last year. And I don't want to, not to disparage anybody else that I've worked with, but like the resounding best part of working with Timeless is that like end to end, everyone that I've talked to at your guys' company is like hands down the best. Like you guys make extremely fantastic hires culture wise. Like everyone is just kind, cool, and committed to the cause. I think that plays a big aspect into why you guys are like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys are like the ninth biggest vape company in America, which I think is a testament to, the marketing strategy, the people, and like the genuineness that's been sewn into the brand, you know?
I love to hear you say that, and I really appreciate that compliment because I think there's a lot of parallels between our brands in terms of culture, right? Because that's something that you guys talk about too, with like the legacy and that you can't. What is it? There's no SOP around culture. I think that's one of your taglines, right? So
That's
definitely there's
exactly.
parallels with Timeless as well because community, culture, and legacy. Those are the three pillars that we talk about all the time that we try to live by. So we try to apply those to our own marketing efforts. Most of the campaigns that we work on have some element, whether it's, and sometimes it's all three of culture,
Mhm.
community, and legacy, and sometimes it's one or it's two, but those are the values that we live by here.
I love that. And I think, you know, we're still in a point in our industry where it's not the most widespread, the most like, we have a lot of publicity, I feel like, but our business is like very slowly growing. And, having brands that are very attached to like core values and kind of speaking through those aren't, I don't think it is the focal point of people's brand marketing efforts in our space. Like I think people can spin out brands and do some messaging, but in terms of speaking from like almost like the heart of the brand, I think very few brands have like put together that universe and like pretty much project that out to the market. And you guys do like a fantastic job of that.
Thank you. I mean, our leadership team, that's what they set out when they all got together. It was like, okay, we're this is how we're going to do it, right? You need a heart. Your brand needs a heart and soul. And I
Mhm.
feel like we try to convey that with what we do. It's obviously, yes, we are producing vape cartridges, but we are also very enmeshed in our local communities, and we rely on our field marketing teams in each state to help us be impactful in the communities.
And actually, we'll get to that later. But the first thing that I want to broach with you is you had like a stretch in food before you came into cannabis, right? Like you worked at like a very, very large company in terms of food. And one, I
Mm-hmm.
want you to speak on that. But two, I want to know like how did you make your way from that world? Because you were like managing brands, so like you were kind of doing exactly what we were just talking about, like breathing that heart and soul of what brand messaging is. And how did you find cannabis for one, and make that transition over to cannabis, especially with Timeless?
That is a great question. Okay, well, it's usually all about who you know, right? That's
Mhm.
how so many of
Absolutely.
these connections and relationships are made, and that's
Mhm.
exactly how I entered the cannabis industry, was through who I knew. I knew a guy that I worked with on digital marketing efforts who owned a digital agency in Arizona. He introduced me to George Simpson, who's our CRO. George knows everybody and anybody. He's kind of like the mayor around Phoenix, but
Right.
so I was introduced to George. I started talking to the Timeless team while I was working for a very large food manufacturer, also headquartered here in Phoenix. And yeah, I was slinging hot dogs, slinging lunch meat, bacon, very, very different. It's been honestly,
Right.
like, coming to cannabis from that traditional CPG space was a wild, like, journey. Because
Mhm.
I think the things that I now take for granted, having been in this space for over 3 years, is
Mhm.
how quickly we can pivot, right? So that's like something that is not, you can't do that in a traditional CPG. It takes months and months and months, maybe even a year or more of planning.
Mhm.
Shoot, if I wanted to make a different flavored hot dog, it would take me at least 6 months to do it. I'm not
And
kidding. It
that's
would take
minimal.
of like pushing papers around and bureaucracy and all of these things, and working with like the USDA. It would take easily 6 months just to make a new flavor hot dog. In cannabis, thank God, you get to move faster than that, and you can make those rapid pivots. I mean, the industry changes quickly too, right? It's shift, and
Absolutely.
there's some weird things going on in different markets with pricing compression, and everything can change quickly in cannabis, but you can't have the opportunity to also pivot quickly, and you can
Mhm.
change your strategy if you need to, which I'm grateful for, like the speed that we can move, because it was limiting over
Yeah.
in tradition. Mm-hmm.
I can imagine because you, to some degree, it gives you, when you have like such lengthy timelines to do things like that, I feel like it really limits the scope of how much you can experiment and go outside of the box to see what works. And like a massive part of marketing is A/B testing and like seeing what resonates with your audience. And so having something with a lot of red tape and bylines and politicking and working through a bunch of different hurdles essentially
Mm-hmm.
makes it very difficult. And the cool part, I feel like, and I know this isn't like the most popular opinion, but I think the cool part of how cannabis is like fractured almost right now by not having a through and through legalized system across the nation is that,
Yeah.
kind of to what you said, you have like fragmented audiences and you can test a lot in terms of the things that you do. You can pivot, you can move, you can create things in a matter of weeks to months that like in other industries would take so much longer. And I think that's like translated really well in terms of like the approach you guys have taken on like the flip cases, the collaborations that you've done in clothing, and like one of the things is and I don't have it on me, which I'm so mad about, but when I was working with you guys, I was getting stuff from y'all's merch store, and I came across the machete that you guys did. And I was like, I need this machete. I need it. Yes, yes, yes.
My
I
favorite merch piece we have ever done, the machete.
yes.
I don't think this is the perfect version, but it did have the artwork of Tati
Yep.
on it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I adore this piece, and I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I really felt like, you know, it was so awesome. Like, we were talking to her, and we were like, what are you thinking for your merch collab item? She's like, I'd really like to do a machete. And I was like, fucking awesome. Let's do it. Like, in what world do we get to go make a machete just to go with our artist
Just
legacy drop?
cause.
Do it. And let's, giving the artist that creative like input and control is really like a
Mhm.
fun treat, because they get to use our flip case as a canvas first and foremost for their artwork, but they get to put their stamp and their flavor on it, and that's where beautiful things like the machete arise, right?
So cool. Like that was I was looking through the merch store, and I got like a credit, so I was like, all right, let me make it stretch. Let me get a bag, some stocks and stuff, and then I saw I saw the dartboard, and two, I saw the machete, and I was like, I like wouldn't shut up about meetings with y'all. I like wouldn't shut up about the machete for weeks on end, and then one day I get a text from someone at Timeless, and it says, "Be on the lookout in your mailbox." And I was like, I have no idea what that could possibly mean. And then one day I open it up, and it's the machete, and I keep it next to my desk constantly.
Just in
Just like,
case.
I don't know, as like a cool show and tell. And it is like one of my favorite pieces ever. And part of that, I think is like really what resonates with you guys is the fact that when people approach merch in our space, I think the only other people who like really focus as hard on their merch as they do their cannabis brand is probably like Cookies, right? Cookies, I think they started as a clothing brand and kind of like built up the weed name and then expanded into the legal game by doing that. But I don't know much of anyone else who like has really put in the effort and like thought behind how they approach their merchandise, how they try to give stuff to their audience that isn't just like a t-shirt, not to shade any t-shirts, but like you guys just come out with cool shit. And that like really builds more community within your consumers. Like almost anywhere I go, I will like ask a dispensary or bud tender if they have Timeless just so I can cop a cart because like I'm trying to support wherever I go. You know what I mean? Because it's just so great.
I love that you say it. Thank you I appreciate your support, of course.
Of
That's
course.
amazing, and I appreciate the compliment. I mean, Rocky and Sean started the brand as a lifestyle brand, so that's where we're rooted, right? Like that's how we started, and so it definitely echoes. You know, we're still true to that. We carry it forward in our collabs. We try to incorporate it now into the vape side of things, but yeah, that's our roots.
I love that. Yeah, and in terms of where you came, so you leave big food, so to say. I guess I don't know what the phrasing would be, but you leave the food industry, right? And you step into cannabis. This is 3 some odd years ago, right? So
Yes.
where is Timeless then? And then where has, you know, I want to give you a chance to like flex all of the muscle that you've put on building this. Like, where have you brought Timeless from those 3 years ago to now? Because you guys have expanded your your platform massively. Your footprint is across so many different markets now, and you guys keep finding cool and awesome people to collaborate with so that you can build that footprint across states. So, like, where in 3 years, what have you done? Essentially, is what I want to ask because it's been a lot. I know it's been a lot.
Okay, I will caveat first. I will say team effort, not about any one person, right? This is our whole team, like all contribute, and the growth that we're experiencing with market expansion makes us stronger, right? So let me think. Okay, you're gonna like this story because this is funny. Right before I came over and I was working for Big Food, I was working on a campaign, like a national CPG campaign, standing on top of a giant hot dog with vanilla ice. Cannot make this up. It was a national campaign. And I was working on this while I was talking to Timeless, and George and the guys happened to be in California, and they're like, we were chatting. I'm like, oh, I'm in California. They're like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just shooting a commercial with vanilla ice, and I'm going to be back in Phoenix in a couple of days. So that was hilarious. So I ended up coming over, like, you know, talking to them several times, and I made the leap. Came over in my first week, and I'll never forget this because, you know, I'm learning a tremendous amount about the industry, the compliance, like how things work. I mean, it's wild that, you know, you have to have different packaging in every state. Like I'm learning all these new things that you learn when you come into this industry. And my first week, by the end of the week on Friday, I remember standing at a whiteboard because we were trying to decide if Tumble by Timeless was going to be branded like something else, if we're incorporating Timeless distillate, what's it going to be? Is at the time we were producing just a straight flower pre-roll. We were trying to determine where does this live? And I said, this is a new brand. Like this is a totally new brand, but it's got like, you know, Timeless distillate is one of the ingredients, and we have to just launch it as a new brand. And then 4 months later we did. So again, like talking about the speed with which you can work, we launched Tumble January 2022 in Arizona. We like to use, you know, our home base as like our incubator to see how things to test and see how we're going to be greeted as a brand. But so Tumble was not yet active. When I started at Timeless, we had just gone medical in Missouri. I believe we were in 4 states when I started. And now today we are in, math is hard, 7 states, soon to be 8. We'll be launching Maryland this year. And then we will be growing a bit more in 2025. So we have some plans for Massachusetts as well. So we'll be in 9 states, early 2025. So, right. In that time span, Missouri has gone rec. Ohio has gone rec. We weren't in
Yep.
Ohio. We launched Ohio's medical. Now they're rec. So a lot of changes to our markets. Arizona is
Absolutely.
a very price focused market. So a lot of just industry changes across the board. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
started. And you know what, Nigel? I have to say, we also had a moment where we had to do an assessment because we were trying to do a lot. At the time we had a canary, we had a CBD brand, and so we have to look at these things and see what are we doing well versus what we're just doing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to
Absolutely.
supplement a brand to be successful, but I think we're right in this really great sweet spot where we've got a solid product portfolio, a lineup, and we're starting to branch out into different categories like with Tumble. So I'm really excited to see us be able to deploy our cream of the crop, pun intended,
Yeah.
to these other states.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's crazy. Like the landscape that you guys have built and kind of worked essentially has been very much, I think it's been fast but focused, which is something I really respect about you guys. Like a lot of people I think have the issue of either stagnancy where things will, maybe not grow in a way that maybe they should because maybe being comfortable or not knowing which way to go, but also a lot of, and this is a big problem in cannabis, but hyper growth mindset where people will try to scale beyond comprehension in a matter of a year or a couple months, and oftentimes if you don't have the infrastructure that ends up imploding on you. So I love the fact that you guys have, and I know you guys are big on the retreats and going and working on the strategic vision of the company. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that plays such a massive role in, instead of having, I always say iguana eyes, people will look in two different directions for everything. But I feel like you guys have an absolute laser focus in terms of, and work to keep that laser focus on what you guys are planning on doing and how to execute it the best way possible. So I it's nuts to hear because I think for most people, an expansion like that over the series of 3 years is mind boggling, because it's you have finite resources, you're working across multiple states and talking to different stakeholders and everything. And it's a testament, I feel to how well oiled everything is over there and how great everyone I'm sure works together. Right.
Yes. But thank you for the compliment. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. To your point about, having the strategic sessions, we just had ours last week. So
Mhm.
we had all of our states come and join us here in Arizona for 4 days. We spent all the time laying out our plans, our vision for 2025. We also take the time to review what was done really well, right? And we have to give that credit to our states because doing a brand collab is is a really fun experiment and project to work on, but getting the great
Mhm.
ideas it's really coming from our states, right? We didn't Shed for the Cure is the campaign that we just did this year nationally. That was just a Missouri effort. They served up to us and they said, hey, we know this guy who survived brain cancer, and we want to do a campaign around him. He's into skateboarding, and we were like, let's take a look at this. Yeah. So we look at it, we do something that's local. And then I was
Mhm.
like, this is a national campaign for next year, guys. Let's go bigger with this because this is a really cool opportunity, and all served to us by those states, right? Like our Missouri field marketing team, Trent, he served that up. This year, our Arizona team, Austin, is one of our Arizona teammates, and he served up a collab with Iron Willed. So, we just have to listen. We just have to listen, and they serve us up these great opportunities. The brand team, yeah, we're out there, we're trying to generate new ideas all the time, but
Mhm.
we definitely take the feedback from the markets and we try to apply that.
I feel like the mark of great marketing typically is a matter of almost how open your ears are to the world around you. You know what I mean? Being super open to inspiration and ideas wherever they may come, and then saying let's run with it. Maybe it's not typical, maybe it's not ordinary, maybe it's not like run of the mill of what we tend to produce, but let's give it a try. Why not? Because like who knows what that ends up being, right? Like so cool to have the legacy aspect of skateboarding and how that relates to cannabis culture and the interwovenness of that. And then you also have like this whole other aspect where it's brain cancer, and like cannabis has been used as this amazing tool to help fight and combat this disease. And like such a cool way to personify all of that within a series of products and like collaborations, like that is so gnarly. I like, it's exactly what I feel like the greater cannabis community is looking for in terms of brand evolution in our space. Is like, you can do so much in terms of cannabis forward things. And I don't think, our community loves that. Our community loves weed. We love, every and all types of people who consume. But I think the really cool part of what you guys do is that you reach outside of our world and say, let's like cross pollinate on things. And that ends up getting way more people involved, because I don't think a weed smoker looks like any certain thing. A weed smoker is indicative of somebody who, does woodworking, quilts, skateboards, whatever it is. I feel like that's what a cannabis smoker can be. So like you guys do such a great job of capturing identity across different realms that I love. I know it's a lot of this is me just giving you flowers, but I really do appreciate what you guys have done.
Oh, thank you, Nigel. That's amazing. I have to say that, I agree. I think with like using that campaign specifically, like at the end of the day, we raised $46,000 for Head for the Cure. So that one it holds a space in my heart. We produced like a 6-pack. We made a flip case for every state. This one just like, and honestly, I think those relationships that we now have with like DJ Stewart, who's like he's our guy, right? Like we will continue to work with DJ. And it's that relationship building. But you touched on something else that's like so important, right? Like you talked about the industry and it can be whatever. I think that's the thing that's so fun and cool to me about the cannabis space, is that it is such a welcoming space. Like, I have like different friends across different brands. Everybody is just like, it's really cool. It's this weird solidarity that you just don't see, and like definitely not in traditional CPG. It's like arch nemesis brands, right? Like people don't foster those relationships the same way that they do in cannabis. But cannabis, like we talked about, is such a rapidly moving industry that things can change quickly, and people that can migrate or shift around. So it's so nice to see people like be super welcoming and like friendly and all of that, because you never know where somebody is going to end up, and it's good to keep those relationships like strong.
I totally agree, because I talk to people almost weekly or monthly, where it's just check-ins, because I'm just how's everybody doing, what are you up to, like how's everything. And I always tell people that this is like the smallest industry in the world, because we met through a different company that I worked for, and now we're here. You know what I mean? And that's like that goes to show, just like people will hop around and find their place and use their talents in the industry as they will. And relationships end up being the most important piece of capital that you can have in this, which like I had, small tangent, but I had somebody reach out to me who was a writer, and he asked for advice on like what can I do to gain more clients or work with more people. And I was like, dude, just literally message people and be like, hey, can we just like talk for 20 minutes? Don't even try to sell them on services. Don't even like, I think the first thing that people hate in our industry is smelling out that you're just trying to sell them on something and dip. Because like, why would I want to do that? You're just trying to take money from me, and two, I don't even know if you're good at what you do. So it's like, make friends, and then see where that leads you. Because I'll say like my writing career started doing free writing for people, and that has snowballed into almost outside of sales, like almost everything that I do in a marketing sphere. Like I truly couldn't have ever guessed that me taking a free writing job would have done that, because you want to get paid for your time, but it pays dividends to have relationships in this industry. I mean, that's how you came into it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. You're totally right. And it's cool to, I mean, like looking at your own experience, right? And like taking a skill and honing it and then being able to incorporate it into your role. Like, I love that. Like continuous learning is so important. And like, we talk about, I mean, technology, cannabis technology, like it's all shifting, right? Like I think we're about to see a big shift. And I think we're going to see a big shift in data, and there's a lot of interesting things that are going to become normal soon, that are like have been used in CPG. You're starting to see that trickle over into cannabis, like programmatic, like that didn't happen a couple years ago in cannabis, and now it's more prevalent. So you're starting to see, the adoption of these some fantastic digital marketing techniques and things like that. But yeah, it's that continuous learning and like gaining those skills that's so important.
And I think the kind of speaking from that, right, the biggest thing that is that marketing is no one thing, right? I think marketing is like across a funnel, of course, but you have people who specialize in so many different fields of marketing that like it can truly be as expansive as you want it to be. And something that I feel like is really great in terms of your expertise is that brand marketing is like where you came from to bring that expertise into the industry. And brand marketing is something that, is completely and utterly necessary in our industry, right? Like, I think another one that is super important is things like SEO, right? Like paid ads and things like that, things that other industries have the luxury of being able to do to get an audience or build an audience, isn't something that we have the luxury of being able to take advantage of. So like people with these different schools of marketing, they bring this to the industry and it helps them shine because, you have way more of a leg up than maybe traditional CPG people or individuals who bring kind of the whole other tool belt of marketing that we don't necessarily have access to.
Yes. That's true. Your point, I tend to look at marketing as like a very holistic like approach, right? It's not just about ads, it's not just about SEO. It's also like, I mean, feeling confident that you have a high quality product. I think that's so crucial, as a step, really. Like, you want to be able to get out there and be like 100% gung ho about your brand, and having that quality, that consistency that, that's so crucial. That's a big step, I think. I think playing to your strengths and seeing like, what you can do well versus what you can just do. But yeah, like there's so many different types of marketing, and it is fun to see like the evolution in cannabis and like digital transformation starting to happen. It's really, really cool.
It makes a massive difference. And, I think the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is coming outside of an industry, like a lot of things that I tend to ask our guests is more about, you have a bunch of people out there, right, who are marketers or maybe want to get into the space, and they're not entirely sure or confident on how it would be best to do that. And I think, again, I feel like I'm throwing flowers at you like left and right, but what can marketers do, or what can they focus on to like have such a grand slam impact in cannabis like you and the team have done with Timeless? Because I think, there's a couple of case studies that exist in terms of companies and brands that have kept their roots and have done amazing things in the space and grown to more than I'm sure they could have possibly dreamed of when they started. And I kind of just want to know, from the perspective of somebody who is at the top of one of the top companies in the space, like what's your recommendation to marketers out there?
I mean, I think having having that authentic message, if you haven't crafted it yet, that's obviously very important. Staying true to like your brand, right? Like to what you guys do, what you do well. I think beyond that, it's like once you have crafted that message and that it's targeted properly to the right audience, then it's about how do you get this message out into the world, right? And so then it's looking, I mean, we talk about scale. It's so hard to scale in cannabis sometimes because you got to have different packaging in Missouri than you can have in, Arizona. So it is harder to do that. But I think you're going to have your pivots. Obviously, that's inevitable. But I think like it is trickier to get that message out depending on your states. The compliance and the ad and marketing compliance does make it more difficult. But trying to find like, the workarounds and the ways that you can, I'm like, we look at certain markets and we say, this one's going to be a challenge because how are we going to get this out to the public? Right. So
Right.
we're doing our due diligence. We're digging in there and seeing like, what can we do? Like, let's, is like think outside the box, right? You have to do that. You have to say like, well, okay, we can't do that. How can we get this message out? And you find those, you find the tactics that work in your states. With expansion, I think for us, like I'm really, really passionate about the consumer journey. That's really important to me. From two sides, right? Like for us, it's as a third party brand, right? We're trying to appeal to dispensary employees, bud tenders. We're trying to appeal to consumers too. So obviously education is a big piece of that. And then, making that consumer journey as simple and pleasant for them as possible. Part of that is consumer relations, right? Like it's more expensive to go acquire a new consumer than it is to maintain your current consumer set. And I think that's an area where I think that's an area that could be improved in the industry, is consumer relations. There are brands that do it and there are brands that don't. So I think that's really important as part of that big picture, because we want our consumers to be happy. We want them to be satisfied with our products. And if there is an issue, we want to right that ship, right?
Mm-hmm. I love that. I feel like that is one of those, I forgot who even initially published that like statistic, but I feel like that's a statistic that lives in like all marketers' heads, is that it's so much more expensive to acquire than it is to retain. And I think a part of that initial activation and stuff is like who you gave credit to earlier is like your field marketing team. I feel like that is such a massive part in cannabis of initially getting people involved. Like I did like a field week pretty much in Missouri, and they had field marketing reps at one of the dispensaries that I ended up stopping at, and had like a great, just like 10-minute conversation, asking them about what they did. And like, my eyes are now looking for your products, all because I had a pleasant, positive, great interaction with you. And it makes just like all the difference in terms of people, because now not only are you helping build loyalty for that dispensary appreciates you putting in the effort to have people there to speak with people. Then you also have customers who are just engaged and are looking out for Timeless or Codes or whoever it was. You know what I mean? It's like I think an investment that not a whole lot of companies see the value in, but the ones who do like benefit from it 20 times over,
Yeah. I think our kindness team is the team that you would see in dispensaries. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like you go into a dispensary, you see a brand, that's a brand impression they've just made on you, hopefully a positive one, right? Especially if they were pleasant and they answered your questions or helpful in some way. Seeing their logo again in a case is another brand impression, right? So it takes us on average, let's call it 7 to 8 times of somebody seeing our logo before they remember it and they can identify it readily. So yeah, it's all about it's a long tail game, right? It's the brand impressions. And you mentioned funnel earlier. So we're going to talk about the purchase funnel, of course.
Yes.
Right. Like when you think about those brand impressions, it's all these efforts that you're making in various stages of that purchase funnel that are going to hopefully send your consumer on their journey to purchase your product in a dispensary. But a lot of things need to happen for that to take place, right? They have to see your brand many times. Maybe they don't. Maybe they get it right the first time. Maybe that meeting that you had with unnamed brand was enough to get you to purchase the product and walk out a happy consumer, right? Hopefully that, you know, then they slam dunked it. But that's definitely, yeah. I mean, Kindness Team is a huge piece of our puzzle when we think about our marketing mix. And, you know, we're so grateful that we have such wonderful people who, you know, they get that name for a reason.
Yeah, they bring the energy, which like is, you know, part of my like personal brand is that if I'm going anywhere, even like I go to physical therapy now because of my leg. When I walk through the door, I'm like, you know, maybe some people are annoyed by it. I don't know. But I'm like, what is up, party people? How's it going? Let's get it moving today. And like, it is, you know, silly. It's whatever. But it also is like the impression that you make on people is like the brand that you hold. And like, you know, I don't like commercializing everything, but it's the truth. You know, like the image people hold in your head is like very much grounded in how they feel about you, if they want you around, like, and that is what brand is at the end of the day. It's, you know, I feel like so many brand exercises are about personifying the brand, you know, making it into a person. Like, who is that person and who are they friends with, or who do they interact with? Like, what do they care about? What do you know? And it is having a field marketing team, I feel like, is truly the embodiment, like you want it to be the personification of what your brand is, because that is the people that are out there making those impressions, working you through a funnel, so to say, or even entering you in the funnel.
Yes. I think too, like Nigel, like you touched on it, right? Like you're bringing like a certain level of energy. You're hoping that level of energy is matched, right? Or mirrored. And that's like, you know, something that, yeah, we want to absolutely do that at our activations, at our takeovers. We want our team to hype people up. And also, you know, it was something about what you mentioned about the regionality, right? Like having the field marketing teams be the boots on the ground that give us that local mix. Like they're the ones who know, when we talk about campaigns that are effective, like they're the ones who know where the best pizza spot is downtown Kansas City, right? Like they know. So we lean on them really hard to tell us like what's going to be like effective, right? Like, and like seasonally, like when you think about Arizona, like I'm here in Arizona, right? It's like 70 some degrees outside and it is November. Well, that's not going to be the case in Ohio. So we have to lean on those teams so hard to help us get it right, right? Like we go really hard on golf in Arizona in January and February, Waste Management Open. But nobody else does golf hard in January and February, right? So we have to really like be that sponge for each of our states, the field marketing teams being the sponge that soaks up all that local flavor and knowledge and like tells us like how do we make this like work.
And I think the other part of that, right, is the best insights that you can wield from both a sales and a marketing perspective is going to be experiential, boots on the ground. What am I hearing, mixed with data and understanding what's happening across the market, which I think you guys do a great job of, is finding the story within data and then using what you guys understand from a field team on how to essentially bring action to that, and like how to make it different, and kind of how to flavorize it in a timeless way, you know?
That is a perfect segue into like how we go about choosing our core strains each year. We start January with like a new lineup of 6 core strains, and we do use like data to see what are the best cores like collectively across all of our states. But then we let the regions tell us like, okay, so like to give you an example, we did like a sweet tea strain in Oklahoma. Sweet tea doesn't resonate in Arizona, but it sure as hell does in Oklahoma, right? So we want to give them that. Truth. Yeah, we want to give them room to tell us like, hey, we think this strain is going to kill here because it's a local flavor and people are all hyped up about it. So that's part of it, right? Like having the data set, but also having the boots on the ground to help you like know like what's going to work in different states.
Yeah, it's how you speak to an audience. You guys should do like a Raising Cane's collab and do a fried chicken cart in Louisiana.
Did you see our April Fool's joke this year?
No, I did not. Please tell me about it.
we did a Taco Bell fake out, and we really sold it. We sold it too well, where people were like mad.
Did they talk to you guys?
What?
Oh, I was
No,
about
it
to
was
ask.
not real. It was no.
Okay.
We said we were doing like a Taco Bell collab strain, like Baja Blast strain, which would be the best. It would be the coolest. If there are any Taco Bell executives listening, please reach out to me. We would love to do that, but it wasn't real. It was like our dream of what could be. And Rocky is the visionary for that one. It was sold way too well. People were like emailing us asking where they're like, do I buy this at Taco Bell or the dispensary? And I was like, oh God, we did too well. Like we sold it. We really sold it. Like they really thought we were doing it. And honestly, like I wish we could.
I'm just saying, as one of the brands who is top dog in collaborations, that would be pretty cool to see. I'm not gonna lie. I would, even if it was just to experience it once, I would get a Baja Blast card.
Oh,
You know,
it would be. I don't know what I would be able to do with myself after that. I would have reached the Mecca.
that's the top of the mountain. So kind of to bring this to a close, because I think you've given like a great understanding 360 of kind of where you have found your place from coming out of food into cannabis, and how Timeless has kept the amazing name that it's kept across markets and its growth, and what you look for in terms of marketing and that full spectrum experience. What is, as much as you can, like, I guess legally give us, what is the next steps for Timeless? What is the big vision of Timeless? Like, if you had to throw dart on the wall, like the 30,000 square foot, this is what we're going to do. What is it?
50 states.
50 states. I like that. 50 states.
But I think it's not just about like states, right? It's also about bringing that full product mix into those states. So, we have Tumble in 2 markets right now. And I would love to see that become 7 markets. So, we're obviously, we have to look at where we are. That's long term. But yeah, that's how you get there, right? It's step by step. You're breaking down those barriers of, maximizing yourself in the space. If we're going to set up operations in these states, like let it be across multiple categories, so we can, try to get there.
Absolutely. Right on. Mm-hmm. We didn't even touch on Azul. Honestly, we didn't even get to talk about Azul, which
Azul. Well,
give it its platform. I would love to.
You can be the first to know that Oklahoma is going to be launching Azul maybe at the end of this month. The end of November is our target for expanding Azul into Oklahoma. So, we have to look at what the states can do and like what they can do well. And we think Azul is going to do really well in Oklahoma. It's not a rec market yet, but it's been medical for a long time. And I think the next evolution is solventless live rosin in the form of Azul for us.
I totally agree. I worked out in Oklahoma for a little under a year, and it was like Oprah Winfrey with licenses, where like it was just you get a license, everybody gets a license. And you see like kind of the craziness that happens with that. Prices crash, things go crazy, whatever. Mm-hmm. But the other part of it is that like, I forgot what the number was, but it was like over 600 different licenses, like way more than 600, honestly. I'm just being conservative, but the community of connoisseurship that popped up from that was crazy. Like people developed taste for good, clean products so quickly, and like we're willing to pay the price for them. And like there's a lot of differentiation in that market. So I feel like it was, the consumer like connoisseurship got built out of this craziness, and like, I think great vision for you guys to be able to see it and go, you guys like quality, we're going to give you quality in a timeless fashion, you know?
Yeah, I will credit the Oklahoma team because they have been wanting a Zool forever. They asked for it last year. You know, there's a lot of things that need to happen behind the scenes for that to be successful. So kudos to them for continuing to push for it. I'm really excited to see it go live there very soon.
Right.
So.
Awesome. Kyle, you are the best. I truly do appreciate your time. This has been like so much fun. I want to give you a chance to be able to shout yourself out, shout Timeless out, let people know where to find you guys.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate this opportunity, Nigel. It's been really fun talking to you. You can find Timeless in Arizona, in California, in Illinois as of July. You can find us in Missouri. You can find us in Ohio, Oklahoma, and now New Jersey as well. So, yeah, you can find the most suite of products for vape in all of those states, and coming soon, Tumble, our infused pre-roll, and some new states.
Awesome. Oh, that's exciting. Well, guys, thank you for joining us. I'm Nigel Despinasse. I'm your host. We just had a fantastic conversation with Kyle Webb. You can look us up on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter at Beard Bros Farms. And you can get at me on any social media at Nigel_Ds, or you can find me at Nigel Despinasse on LinkedIn. So thank you so much again, Kyle. This was awesome.
Thank you, Nigel. I appreciate you.